Hello, we're here today to introduce to you the Daddy's Club. This is a spiritually based organization that was recently founded by Mr. Anthony Travis, who is the president of the Daddy's Club. We also have today Mr. Odie Payne, who is the vice president of Mental Health Division. Welcome, both of you. I am Pearl Lewis. I am affiliated with the Daddy's Club also in the area of mental health. Tony, would you like to give us an overview of what the Daddy's Club is and how it came about?
Yes, well, thank you for having me here. The Daddy's Club came out of a concept at Zion Lutheran School, where my children go to school at. And one of the problems that we saw over there, that there was a need for men to step up and become surrogate fathers to some of the children, because in so many of our different communities, fathers are not in the home for whatever reason, whether they're in jail, strung out on drugs, or what have you. And someone has to step up to the plate and take on that responsibility. And so out of that situation came the concept of the Daddy's Club.
That's very good. I think that's a very necessary thing today, and it's definitely a problem. And I think that it's a wonderful vision that you have. And exactly, you know, what are you going to be doing? I mean, do you have like a plan? What's going to be your plan?
Yes, one of the plans that we have for the Daddy's Club, we will have certain divisions. And with those divisions, we will institute a mentoring program for men and women and children, because we want to teach children as well as men and women to run their homes like Joshua. As Joshua said, for me and my house, I will serve the Lord.
Amen. Okay. Odie, do you have something to say on that?
Sure. Like Anthony said, one of the things that we're trying to accomplish with this organization is to run our houses like Joshua. One of the biggest components of the Daddy's Club is going to be the mental health division. It's imperative now these days that people understand, you know, why they're behaving in certain ways, and try to equate those things to the Bible. Okay, so what we are going to do is to take a spiritual concept, which is age old. It's really age old, and if people follow those concepts, then we should be able to correct most of the problems that we see in our communities today.
Mm-hmm. So exactly which principles are we talking about?
Essentially, we're basically talking about the principles of the 10 Commandments. I mean, for starters, mm-hmm. You know, we have a lot of things that are going on in our communities that you know, sort of disrupts our households, because we're not in the Bible. We're not using the 10 Commandments. You know, thou shalt, you know, honor thy mother and father. You know, mm-hmm. we have a lot of our young people who have not been able to embrace that concept, because either it hasn't been taught in their homes, or you know, they just choose to ignore it. So what we want to do is to kind of get back to the basics, mm-hmm. and everything. And you know, in this 2000 type year that we have, we want to get back to the basics and be able to employ those values into young folks and into adults and everything, so we can run our house, like Travis said, like Joshua.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying the father in the home as a vital and necessary person.
Oh, it's very imperative. It's imperative. And for those who are without fathers in the home, then it will be up to other members who have joined the Daddy's Club to step up to the plate, mm-hmm. and be able to fill those voids and teach those principles that I spoke of earlier, mm-hmm. and everything, in order to have the household run like it should, like right. Joshua.
You see, it's very important that the society understand that as Christians, we're out to be the head, not the tail. And for too many years as Christians, we have given that responsibility over to the world. Yeah. And unfortunately, yes. And we must stop that. Mm-hmm. The male in the household, that man, he is the chief priest of his family. whether he's in that house or somewhere else. He is still the chief priest.
Okay. All right. And what is the role of the wife or the spouse or the female?
Well, the female have a very responsive position. And if you study the Bible, 2 Timothy, it tells the female is to be in submission to her husband, and the husband is to be in submission to the wife.
Now, by submission, do you mean that to be subservient or second class?
No. God did not mean for his daughter to be treated like an animal. And we must teach men. They must respect their women. They must respect their wives, their daughters, any woman. They must show respect for that woman.
So what other areas is the Daddy's Club going to get into? Is it just going to be mental health, or is it just going to be family counseling, or is it going to be bigger than that?
It's going to be bigger than that.
Okay,
At this particular time, we would like to try to just stay in the area that we're dealing with right now, because down the road we will be doing this again, incorporating some other activities as we go along.
Okay. What about children? I mean, we have like a very high crime rate here. We have, every day we hear about children killing other children. Guns are in the schools. Parents are wanting to give their children up because they have no control. I mean, if someone were to just come into you and say, help me, what would you say to her or him?
I think the first thing we would have to do is let the parents know that they have a moral and spiritual obligation to raising their children. And I think part of the problem that we're facing in our society today is too many young people having children. And by young people having children, and they're still children themselves, they do not know how to raise a child.
That's correct.
And that's where adults who have had the opportunity to have children while they are adults, who know how to raise them, have to step up to the plate and be that surrogate mother and father to these children.
So you're going to teach abstinence? Are you going to tell people they have to remain virgins until they marry? Or
well,
what?
The Bible states, when I read Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it is best to be married than to burn in hell.
That's correct. That's correct.
So what that's telling us, you should not be out there fooling around having sex if you do not have a husband or a wife. And we need to get back to that principle.
To the basics. Yes.
So you see the breakdown in the family unit as very strong influence, or maybe the primary influence for many of the social problems that we have today with the children, with society in general, just with the high divorce rates and the high crime rates and all of that. You all see this as a family problem, a spiritual problem.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
In general, African Americans have always been a spiritual people, and we've seemed to deviate from that, which has allowed all of the corruption and dismantlement of our families. So what we would like to do is to get back to those roots, get back into being spiritual people, and having our children acknowledge that we are spiritual people, and be able to, raise ourselves in a fashion that is, of course, God-like. Okay, because that's the ultimate goal, to be Christ-like. So that's what we would like to ultimately achieve with the Daddy's Club.
So how do you propose to get around all of the government regulations and rules and restrictions and all of this that restricts so much of the spiritual ideas and beliefs that you all are talking about, that we're talking about here?
Well, I think the way you get around that is you deal with those issues that the government tells you you have to deal with on those terms. But then you still have the First Amendment right to speak out from a Christian perspective.
Thank God for that.
And thank God for that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add? I feel like, we're kind of focusing just on the family. Is there any other area that you'd like to talk to us about
Well,
today?
I think one of the areas that I would like to touch on briefly, and that's the area of divorce.